Hi there, I'm Monty McKinnon. Today we're going to put the shell in the back of our guitar, and it's already started. I've just put some in just to show you how this is going to work. We used our calipers here with the end extended to move this board, which is the easiest jig ever, over here. We used it as a guide. And you saw that perhaps in the last video. We set that over here on the side, and we have run the router up and down here until we got this thing all set. We have the purfling lines in here, and I have some Teflon and some shell up in the top part. I'm going to show you that in just a moment. The thing is, I wanted to show you the router, but I needed to be very careful of what I was doing here, so I had to do that first to route the channel. But this guide works so well. I'm telling you, this jig, what I called the easiest jig ever, it's just so useful. You haven't even seen the sandpaper part of that yet, and that'll come up in a future video. But this is really interesting to see how this all fits in here. I have some shell, which is straight shell. It's Paua, and it comes from Australia. The company is Mother of Pearl of Australia, and I just ordered more of this to go around the fingerboard and around the peg head. I have lots of curved. In fact, if I show you this, look at this. I have a huge amount of the curved stuff, which is going to go around the top of the guitar. So I'm not concerned about that. But this, I just wanted to make sure I had enough for the back and for the top of the guitar along with the fretboard. So we can remove this here now because we no longer need it. But I did set it up by taking this edge here, the flat edge on the caliper, and put it up against the edge of the mark that I wanted for the routing out the channel. And then I just moved this over until the router was just perfect and lined up, and it worked so well. So let's get on. What do you say we add some shell? So we're going to do that right now. Now what I have here that I want to show you, these are some pieces of Teflon. They're tiny little shoelace-like pieces of Teflon, and you put those into the slot between the actual purfling, and that forces the purfling out to the side of the guitar channel here that we put in here. And so I want to show you what we'll do is we'll tack that down with a little bit of CA glue so that it won't move. And then I'll show you at the far end up here, right up in here, where I have, for example, the shell. And I'm going to bring the camera even in closer than what it is now so you can see me do this. So you're just going to see my hands. So what do you say we do that? Well, here we go. I've got some Teflon already in here, and that's forcing the purfling back. And I've actually put some shell in up at the top end here of the guitar. So what we'll do now at this point is we'll just take our glue and we'll just tack it ever so easily here. I don't want a lot of it in there. I just need enough to hold this in place. Now what happens with the Teflon is the glue goes down in and underneath. So I end up using a chisel, and I have this chisel which I sacrificed, and I ended up putting this side and this side onto a wheel and ground it down so that I can scrape it out here so that it will all fit nice and neat. So what do you say we take this out? Normally, what I would do at this side, but because I wanted to show you some of this shell already in here, let's get another look at that. Some of the shell that is in here. Why I've done it this way. Normally, I would have the Teflon all the way to the top, and then I would let it set, and then I would run this through the sander and take this down flush with the sides. so that the purfling is now the same as the guitar back. But I didn't do that on this case because I wanted to show you both pieces, and it will work just fine in a moment because we're going to pull this out. Just set that aside. So now the key here is to find pieces that line up with what you already have in the back. Something that's similar in design, because the shell comes in all kinds of different designs, and you want to make sure that it's going to be, oh, that's absolutely perfect. So that's just going to sit down in there, and I want to make sure that this is tight up against the next piece. So I take the bench dog here and I just tap it. Don't have to hit it hard. The shell will break, and if it does, you just simply use another piece of shell. This is what we do all the way down the back. So what I'll do now is I'll continue on doing this, because you don't need to see all that. You've seen me do a couple here. I'll do this right down to the end here, which is right here. I'll go right down to here. And then we'll flood this whole thing with more CA glue so it's good and tight. I can see that's a little loose there. That side's good, but this one's loose. That's not a problem. And then once that's all flooded, what we'll end up doing is running it through the sander and get it nice and flat. So you'll see all of that. All right, let me get on with this. It's nice and tight. I have flooded the area with CA glue, and that, yes, I used Starbond, and I used the thin so it would wick down in underneath, because that's important. I want that totally solid. So what I'll do is I'll end up running this through the sander, and I'll take that all down until it's nice and smooth. And then once we're at that point where it's smooth, I'll flip it over, do the back, and we'll take it down to the thickness that we want from the back side, not the top. The top, I'm just going to do enough to smooth it over to get it nice and neat and level, and then we'll turn it over and do it from the back side. So that's it for this video. I really do appreciate you being here. I just enjoy so much hearing from my subscribers and friends when you comment. I really do appreciate that. Thank you so much for doing that. All the shell is in, and I have literally gone down each side on the outside and down in the middle with the CA glue to let it wick its way in and around and underneath. And that's what it's looking like. So we're going to have to make some adjustments to this by running it through the sander. And you'll see that up in here where it's hanging over the edge, I'll cut that off. It won't take, it's nothing to do. It's so easy. And then I'll get this nice and smooth, and then we'll flip it over and do it on the back side. So that's it. That went extremely well. I would like to have shown you how to do the actual router, but I'm sure you know how to use a router. So at that point, we're all good. Well, believe it or not, it's 6.5 hours later. Oh my goodness, I ended up with a problem. Was the beginning of this video a prophecy? At any rate, it happened. I had some trouble with this, and take a look at the sander, and you can see on this picture of the sander, there is a black mark and there is a light mark. That mark is sawdust, which what happened is the oil came out of the wood and came around and picked up the sawdust, and it stuck together, and I didn't notice, but it ripped out shell, took an inch out down in this lower corner here, took about 3 inches out up in here, packed this full of sawdust, and when it was flooded to make the shell secure, it hardened. So I had to take this out. I had to take about 3.5 inches out here, another inch down here, and I had to line up, repiece the purfling, and then make shell to go and fit inside here, and that's what took me so long. It's incredible. I want you to see this. Now the shell actually extends beyond what we're going to need, so when we glue this to the back, and we've got the sides on obviously, and run the router across, everything is going to get cut nice and even. But that overall, even though it was a lot of work, it did work out fairly well. So that's now the next job. I will change the sandpaper, and then I will sand this down. Although I may sand some of it, because there's no shell to rip out here, on the sander to take as much of this down, because this is an oily wood, and that's what caused the problem, I believe, in this. So that's it. I am really tired. So I will see you in another video. Thanks for hanging in with me. Time for tea. I'm heading up right now. Bye for now.